The kitchen doors swung open with a muffled thud. Steam curled through the narrow hallway between the dining room and the back of Sereno's fine dining. The smell of garlic butter and seared meat hung thick in the air. Crystal glasses clinked softly against porcelain plates. Low conversation hummed beneath the jazz piano playing from hidden speakers. Emma Hale balanced 3 plates on her left arm, her sneakers squeaking slightly against the polished marble floor. Her black apron was tied tight around her waist. Her hair, pulled into a low bun, had started to fall loose hours ago. She didn't fix it. There wasn't time. Saturday nights at Sereno's were always packed. But tonight felt different. She couldn't explain it. Just a tightness in her chest. A heaviness in the room. Emma set the plates down at table 12, a couple celebrating an anniversary. They didn't look up. She smiled anyway, turned and walked back toward the kitchen. That's when she saw him. Table 9. The corner booth near the back exit. A man sat alone, shoulders wide, suit jacket dark and fitted. His hands rested flat on the table. He wasn't eating. Wasn't drinking. Just sitting. So, like a predator pretending to sleep. 2 other men sat 3 tables away. Both facing him. Both watching the room like guards at a palace gate. Emma had seen him before. Not in person, not like this. But in whispers. In hurried conversations between kitchen staff who went quiet when she walked by. Luca Moretti. The name people said carefully. Like saying it too loud might summon him. He never looked at the menu. Never asked questions. His orders came through one of his men, always the same. Whiskey, neat. Steak rare. No sides. Emma had served him twice before. Both times he didn't look at her. Didn't speak. Just nodded once when she set the glass down. Tonight though, something was wrong. His eyes kept moving. Not obviously. Not like someone nervous. But she noticed. The way his gaze flicked toward the front entrance. Then the side door. Then the hallway leading to the restrooms. He was scanning. Looking for exits. Looking for threats. Emma's stomach tightened. She turned toward the kitchen, her pulse quickening. She told herself it was nothing. That she was tired. That working 2 shifts back to back was making her paranoid. But her hands were shaking when she pushed through the kitchen doors. Table 9 wants the check. The voice came from Marcus, one of the other servers. He didn't look at her when he said it. Just kept wiping down trays. Emma nodded and grabbed the leather billfold from the counter. She slid the receipt inside and walked back into the dining room. The air felt thicker now. She crossed the room slowly, weaving between tables. Her eyes drifted toward the front windows. The street outside was dark. A few cars passed under the glow of streetlights. Everything looked normal. But her chest still felt tight. She reached table 9 and set the billfold down gently beside Luca's glass. "Whenever you're ready," she said softly. He didn't look up. Just reached for the billfold with one hand, his movements smooth and deliberate. Emma turned to leave. That's when she heard it, a voice from the kitchen. Loud. Panicked. "Emma, trash run. Now." She blinked. It wasn't her turn. But she didn't argue. She grabbed the black trash bag from behind the bar and pushed through the back door into the alley. The cold air hit her face like a slap. She exhaled slowly, her breath turning to fog. The alley was narrow, lined with dumpsters and stacked crates. A single flickering light buzzed overhead. Emma lifted the trash bag toward the dumpster, and froze. A shadow moved. Not on the ground. Above. Her eyes lifted slowly toward the rooftop of the building across the alley. A silhouette. A man. Crouched low. And in his hands, a rifle. Long-barreled. Scope mounted. The faint red glow of a laser sight swept slowly across the brick wall, adjusting downward. Toward the restaurant. Toward table 9. Emma's heart slammed against her ribs. She dropped the trash bag. It hit the pavement with a dull thud. The man on the roof didn't move. Emma stumbled backward, her breath coming fast and shallow. She turned and ran back inside, her hands trembling as she pulled the door shut behind her. The dining room looked the same. Calm, normal, elegant. But Emma's world had just tilted sideways. She crossed the floor quickly, her eyes locked on table 9. Luca was reaching for his wallet. He was about to stand. About to walk toward the front door. Directly into the sniper's line of fire. Emma's mind raced. She couldn't scream. Couldn't cause a scene. If he did, people would panic. The sniper might fire early. Luca might not believe her. She needed to warn him. Quietly. Now. Emma grabbed a pen from her apron pocket. Her hands were shaking so hard she almost dropped it. She opened the billfold on the bar, pulled out the receipt and drew a single arrow in the corner, pointing upward. Beside it she scribbled 3 words, "Sniper on the roof. Run." She folded the receipt carefully, walked back to table 9 and set it down in front of him. "Your receipt, sir," she said, her voice barely steady. Luca glanced up at her for the first time. Their eyes met. His were dark. Unreadable. He picked up the billfold. Opened it. "Read the receipt." His expression didn't change. He folded the receipt slowly, slid it into his jacket pocket and stood. He moved immediately away from the windows. Steady and quick. But the 2 men at the other table were already moving. Luca turned and walked toward the back hallway. Not toward the front door, away from the windows. Emma's breath caught in her throat. And then, crash. The front window exploded inward. Glass sprayed across the dining room like frozen rain. A bullet tore through the air and slammed into the back wall, exactly where Luca's head had been 3 seconds earlier. Screams erupted, tables overturned, people dove to the floor. Emma dropped behind the bar, her hands covering her head, her ears ringing. The chaos was instant. Total. And somewhere in the back of her mind, through the terror, one thought burned clear. I just saved a man's life. And I have no idea what that's going to cost me. The next 5 minutes were a blur. Sirens. Flashing lights. Police storming through the front door with guns drawn. Emma crouched behind the bar, her knees pulled to her chest, her whole body shaking. She could hear voices shouting. Footsteps. The crunch of glass under boots. Someone pulled her to her feet. A police officer with a kind face and a firm grip. "You okay?" he asked. Emma nodded, but she wasn't sure it was true. The dining room was destroyed. Tables overturned. Plates shattered. Blood smeared across the floor near the window where someone had cut themselves on the glass. But Luca was gone. So were his men. Emma's manager, a middle-aged man named Vincent, appeared at her side, his face pale and sweaty. "Did you see anything?" he asked, his voice tight. Emma opened her mouth to answer, and then she saw them point. 2 men in dark suits standing near the side exit. Not police. Not restaurant staff. They were watching her point. One of them nodded toward the door. Emma's stomach dropped. I need some air," she said quickly, pulling away from Vincent. She walked toward the side exit, her legs weak, her mind screaming at her to run. But before she could reach the door, a hand closed around her arm. Firm. Not rough. But impossible to escape. She turned. It was one of Luca's men. The younger one with the scar above his eyebrow. "Come with me," he said quietly. "I didn't do anything. Exactly why you're coming with me." He guided her through the side door and into the alley. A black SUV was waiting, engine running, windows tinted dark. The back door opened. Emma tried to pull away, but the man's grip tightened. "Get in," he said. "I'm not. You saved his life. That means you're not safe here." Emma's heart was pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. The man pushed her gently toward the SUV. She climbed inside. And sitting in the back seat, calm as ever, was Luca Moretti. The door slammed shut behind her. The SUV pulled away from the curb, tires crunching over broken glass. Emma pressed herself against the opposite door, her breath coming fast and shallow. Luca didn't look at her. Just stared straight ahead, his hands resting on his knees. "I only tried to help," Emma said, her voice shaking. Luca turned his head slowly. His dark eyes locked onto hers. "Exactly why you can't go home," he said. The safe house was nothing like Emma expected. She thought it would be dark, industrial, cold. Instead, it was a modern apartment on the 6th floor of a building overlooking the Chicago River. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Sleek furniture. Soft lighting. It looked like a place someone actually lived. Luca's men escorted her inside and then disappeared into another room. The door clicked shut behind them. Emma stood in the middle of the living room, her arms wrapped around herself, her mind racing. Luca walked to the window and looked out at the city. His hands were in his pockets. His posture was relaxed. But Emma could feel the weight of his presence. The way the room seemed to shrink around him. "Sit," he said without turning around. Emma didn't move. Luca glanced over his shoulder. "Sit." This time it wasn't a suggestion. Emma sank onto the edge of the couch, her hands gripping her knees. Luca turned and walked toward her slowly. He pulled a chair from the dining table, turned it around and sat facing her. He studied her. Not the way someone looks at a stranger. The way someone examines evidence. Why did you warn me? He asked. Emma swallowed hard. Because I didn't want to see someone die. Most people would freeze, Luca said. You reacted. I don't know. I saw the sniper and I knew I had to do something. Luca's eyes narrowed slightly. How did you see him? I was taking out the trash. I looked up and there he was. On the roof. And you recognized what he was doing. It wasn't hard. He had a rifle. Luca leaned back slightly. Most people wouldn't notice. Wouldn't look up. Wouldn't think fast enough. Emma's pulse quickened. What are you saying? I'm saying you're not normal. The words hung in the air like smoke. Luca stood and walked to a desk in the corner. He opened a drawer and pulled out a folder that he flipped through it, his eyes scanning the pages. Emma Hale, he said. 24. Works double shifts at Serrano's. Lives alone in a studio apartment in Pilsen. No family. No criminal record. Emma's stomach twisted. How do you, but that's not all, is it? He turned another page. You're also enrolled in night classes at Truman College. Behavioral forensics. Top of your class. Emma's mouth went dry. Luca closed the folder and looked at her. You're trained to notice things, he said. To read people. To see patterns. I'm a student, Emma said. I'm not. You're sharp, Luca interrupted. Sharper than you should be. He set the folder down and crossed his arms. That's why I need to know, he said. Are you really just a waitress who got lucky? Or are you something else? Emma stood, her hands shaking. I'm not a cop. I'm not working for anyone. I'm just trying to survive. Luca's expression didn't change. Then why study forensics? Because my father was a detective, Emma said, her voice breaking. And I wanted to understand why he died. The words came out before she could stop them. Luca's eyes flickered. Just for a second. Your father, he repeated slowly. Emma nodded. Isaac Hale. He was killed 10 years ago. They said it was a mugging. But I never believed it. Luca's jaw tightened as he turned away, his hands curling into fists at his sides. Emma watched him, her heart pounding. What? She asked. What is it? Luca didn't answer. He walked to the window and stared out at the river. And for the first time since she'd met him, Emma saw something flicker across his face. Guilt. 3 days passed. Emma wasn't allowed to leave the safe house. Luca's men brought her food. Clothes. Books. But no answers. Luca came and went. Sometimes he was gone for hours. Sometimes he sat at the desk, working in silence, his phone pressed to his ear, his voice low and sharp. Emma tried to ask questions. Tried to demand answers. But every time she did, Luca just looked at her and said, not yet. On the 4th day, everything changed. Luca walked into the apartment holding a manila folder. He set it on the table in front of Emma. Open it, he said. Emma's hands trembled as she pulled the folder toward her. Inside were photos. Crime scene photos. Her breath caught. The first photo showed a man lying face down in an alley. Blood pooled around his head. His jacket was torn. His badge was visible, clipped to his belt. Detective Isaac Hale. Her father. Emma's vision blurred. She flipped to the next photo. The autopsy report. Cause of death. Single gunshot wound to the back of the head. Professional execution. Emma looked up at Luca, tears streaming down her face. Why are you showing me this? She whispered. Luca sat across from her, his expression hard. Because you deserve the truth, he said. Emma shook her head. The truth about what? Luca leaned forward, his hands clasped together. Your father wasn't killed in a mugging, he said. He was murdered. Professionally. Because he was investigating my father. Emma's world stopped. What? Luca's jaw tightened. My father ran the Moretti family for 30 years. Your father was building a case against him. He was getting too close. So someone stopped him. Emma's hands were shaking so hard she could barely hold the folder. Who? She asked, her voice breaking. Who killed him? Luca's eyes were cold. Steady. Anton Vega. The name hit her like a punch to the chest. The same man who tried to kill me at the restaurant, Luca said. The same man who's been trying to destroy my family for the last decade. Emma couldn't breathe. Everything was spinning. Her father. The sniper. Luca. Vega. It was all connected. Vega killed your father to protect my father, Luca continued. But my father never knew. By the time I found out, it was too late. My father was dead. And Vega was already moving against me. Emma's tears fell onto the photos. Why didn't you tell me? She whispered. Because I wasn't sure I could trust you, Luca said. But now I know. He stood and walked to the window. Vega didn't just try to kill me that night, he said. He set you up. He filed a police report naming you as my informant. He told his people you're working for me. He put a target on your back. Emma's head snapped up. What? You can't go home, Luca said. You can't go back to your life. The police think you're dirty. The criminals think you're a mole. You're caught in the middle. Emma stood, her legs shaking. I didn't ask for this, she said. Oh, Luca said. But you saved my life. And now I owe you one. He turned to face her. I'm going after Vega, he said. And I need your help. Emma stared at him. You're observant, Luca continued. You see things other people miss. You think like a detective. I need that. I'm not a killer, Emma said. I'm not asking you to be. Luca walked toward her slowly. I'm asking you to help me stop the man who killed your father. Emma's breath caught, her mind was screaming at her to run. To refuse. To get as far away from this as possible. But her heart was screaming something else. He killed your father, that he tried to kill you. And he's still out there. Emma looked up at Luca. What do you need me to do? She asked. The next 2 weeks were a blur. Emma and Luca worked side by side. She studied surveillance footage. Analyzed behavioral patterns. Identified inconsistencies in Vega's movements. Luca was right, she was good at this. Better than she thought. She noticed things. Small things. The way Vega's men always arrived at a location 5 minutes early. The way they parked in specific spots. The way they communicated through hand signals instead of phones. Patterns. And patterns could be predicted. Luca watched her work, his expression unreadable. But sometimes late at night when they were both exhausted, he would sit across from her and just talk about his father. About the family business. About the weight of carrying a name that people feared. Emma listened. And slowly, against every instinct she had, she started to trust him. One night, Emma found an old photo in Luca's desk. A young boy standing beside a tall man in a suit. The boy was smiling. The man wasn't. That's my father, Luca said from behind her. Emma turned. Luca was leaning against the doorway, his arms crossed. He never smiled, Luca said. Not once. Not even when I graduated. Not even when I told him I wanted out. Emma set the photo down carefully. Did you want out? Luca nodded slowly. I tried. But you don't leave this world. It follows you. It pulls you back. He walked into the room and sat down. I didn't want this life, he said quietly. But it's the only one I have. Emma looked at him. For the first time she saw past the cold exterior. Past the reputation. Past the fear. She saw someone trapped. Just like her. 2 days later, Luca's phone buzzed. He answered it, his expression darkening. Where? He said. He listened, then hung up. Vega's moving, he said. Tonight. Abandoned mill on the south side. He's meeting with his suppliers. Emma stood. I'm coming with you. No. You said you needed me. Not for this. Emma crossed her arms. You're walking into a trap. You know that, right? Luca's jaw tightened. He's expecting you, Emma continued. He's probably got men posted at every entrance. Every exit. He'll know you're coming before you even get there. Luca didn't answer. Emma stepped closer. Let me help. I can predict where he'll be. Where his men will be. I can give you an advantage. Luca stared at her. You could die, he said. So could you. Their eyes locked for a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Luca nodded once. Stay close, he said. And do exactly what I say. The mill was dark, empty, silent. Emma crouched behind a rusted beam, her heart pounding. Luca was 10 feet ahead, moving through the shadows like a ghost. His men were positioned around the perimeter. Watching. Waiting. Emma scanned the space, her eyes adjusting to the darkness. She counted the exits. Noted the placement of crates and machinery. Identified the vantage points. And then she saw a flicker of movement. High up. On the catwalk. A sniper. Emma's breath caught. She grabbed a small rock from the ground and threw it toward Luca. It hit the metal beam beside him with a soft ping. Luca froze. Emma pointed upward. Luca followed her gaze. The sniper shifted slightly, his rifle adjusting. Luca moved. Fast. He dove behind a crate just as the shot rang out. The bullet tore through the air where he'd been standing. Chaos erupted. Gunfire. Shouting. Shadows moving in every direction. Emma pressed herself against the beam, her hands covering her ears. She saw Luca moving through the smoke and darkness, his gun raised, his movements precise. And then she saw him. Anton Vega. Tall. Thin. Gray hair slicked back. A cold smile on his face. He was walking toward the back exit, his men covering him. Emma's heart slammed. He was going to escape. Without thinking, she ran. She cut through the maze of machinery, her feet pounding against the concrete. She reached the exit just as Vega stepped through. "Stop," she shouted. Vega turned, his eyes widened, then he smiled. "Emma Hale," he said. "Isaac's little girl. All grown up." Emma's hands were shaking. Vega stepped closer. "Your father died because he wouldn't shut up. Maybe you should learn from his mistake." Tears burned Emma's eyes. "You killed him," she whispered. "I did what I had to do." Vega raised his gun. And then, bang. Vega stumbled backward, blood spreading across his chest. He fell. Emma turned. Luca was standing behind her, his gun still raised. Smoke curled from the barrel. Vega gasped once. Then went still. Emma's legs gave out. She collapsed onto the cold concrete, her whole body shaking. Luca knelt beside her. "It's over," he said quietly. Emma looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. "Is it?" she whispered. Luca didn't answer. He just pulled her to her feet and led her out of the mill. 6 weeks later. Emma sat on a bench overlooking the Chicago River. The sun was setting, painting the water gold and orange. She wore a new jacket. U-boots. Her hair was down, blowing gently in the breeze. Her tuition had been paid in full. Anonymously. Her father's case had been reopened. New evidence had surfaced. His name was being cleared. And Emma was finally breathing again. She heard footsteps behind her. Luca sat down beside her, his hands in his pockets. They sat in silence for a long moment. "Why help me?" Emma asked quietly. Luca looked out at the water. "Because you drew an arrow on a bill," he said. "And it pointed straight to the truth I owe you." Emma smiled slightly. Luca glanced at her. "You're good at this. Better than most people I've worked with." "I'm not working for you." "Not yet." Emma looked at him. Luca's expression was calm. Steady. "You're smart," he said. "You see things. You think ahead. And you're not afraid to act when it matters." He paused. "I could use someone like you. Legitimately. No crime. Consulting. Analysis. Protection." Emma's heart skipped. "I don't know," she said. Luca nodded. "Think about it." He stood and started to walk away. "Luca," Emma called. He turned. "Thank you," she said. Luca's lips curved slightly. Almost a smile. "Thank you," he said. And then he walked away, disappearing into the glow of the setting sun. Emma sat alone for a while longer. Then she stood, pulled her jacket tighter around her and walked toward her new life. Whatever that might be. Thank you for following this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, comment where you're watching from. Subscribe for more stories like this.